I'm delighted to be here. It's very gratifying to me to see that there are people who are thinking in a collective manner, who believe that as children that God has created, because the Igbo philosophy, the Igbo mythology, believes that the God, the Almighty God, is Ichi, and he creates Chineke. Neke means to create. And the same Chi also, Chineke is a he that distributes. He distributes talents, he distributes wealth. And then God in the Christian doctrine and teaching we believe that God created only one man. And yet he wanted to populate the whole world. But they saw the need to create just one man. And if that is true, as those who believe in the Christian faith, then we are all brethren, and no person should think as an individual. Growing up in one of the communities in Southeast, I saw firsthand what Igwebuike looks like and what it is. That is pre-Civil War. You discover that farms were all properly cultivated. Of course, I'm talking about the farm belongs to us all. We are all products of what the farm produces. If there's no farm, no farmers, no nation, no farm, no life, nothing. But in that very community, I saw that people farm their lands, and land was the only asset available for survival. 98% of individuals own farms, and these farms are fully cultivated every year because the food supply comes from the farm. And families engage in farming, and then age groups are formed to assist where labor is limiting. With the result that you farm for me, then I farm for you, and our group, it gets even into marrying. You discover that in the community, no person is allowed to loaf. People gather to marry for a young man that is responsible but doesn't have the means. Together with building, houses are built, so much that there are no homeless persons in those days in the community, because the age group or age grade will come together, put things together, and what the beneficiary does is to bring in materials that will help them build for him, and then he will serve them drinks. When you look at that society, it was very dynamic, egalitarian, and prosperous. The farm also produced barns. Barns are storehouses where agricultural produce are kept. I had grandparents who are very enterprising grandparents. We had more than 17 yam stakes in the barn, where you see the commercial yam, the moderate-sized yams, and then the yams we eat, regularly, because every morning you take a yam pepper soup before you go to school, and by the time you come back in the afternoon, it may be a roasted yam, and then at night you take a swallow. But the beauty of it is, every one of them, they thought about one another and make provision so that no person's hand is down. And no wonder the Igbo race, can always survive anywhere, because as you move, you are thinking about your brother. You are thinking about, the less privileged. And this sharpened my, ideology in life while growing up. But in 1996, I had opportunity to travel out of this country under Commonwealth scholarship to Bangalore in India. Bangalore is a central state in India. India is a subcontinent, so you will see those who are white, like Snow White, and then those who are dark, like those in Sokoto, like in Madras. The temperature there is up to 42 degrees. And then in the Bangalore where I was fairer than them. They were like people in Imo State. Because Bangalore, when I came down, I just discovered that we are we're on the same equatorial zone. So I saw that everything God gave them were identified and utilized, exploited. The crops, all crop species, weeds, they don't burn anything. The weeds are used as green manures. They sequester them into the soil, prepare the soil to give them food, which means any plant that utilizes solar energy cannot waste. It must return that energy to humans by utilizing them. When I came back as a farm manager then in the university here, I banned everything about burning of manures because it was a common practice. You know, our people believe in burning. Burn everything. You burn heaps of manure. And I banned it and made it available for sideways students to use and grow crops. So the Indians were careful with everything God had given them. And not only that, as I was going, of course, as an international student, I was looking at everything they put in place. I got to Madras University, Veterinary University. I discovered that the local chicken in my village were also there in Madras. And they exploited this local chicken, the naked neck and the frizzle chicken. They were using them, they integrated the genes of this into conventional broilers to produce naked neck broiler and then frizzle broiler, together with naked neck layers and broilers also. When I came, I had a master's degree when I went to India. When I came, my PhD, I had to tailor it straight into poultry genetics. That was how I was able to work on integrating these heat ameliorating genes of the naked neck and frizzle into our conventional broiler and layer type chicken. That was my PhD. And that the success in that very project opened my eyes that we can utilize whatever God has given us. Now, these genes were given to these animals in the population to make them survive. Like chicken cannot sweat, like you and myself, and the goat, sheep, cattle, they sweat because they have skin. But the chicken has coat, so it cannot breathe. It cannot sweat, but it can only open its wings when the weather is very hot and be panting. But that is a minimal way of losing body heat. So, but the naked neck exposes their whole head, neck, and part of their kill to the air. Then, the most powerful one is the frizzling. The frizzle gene you see that looks so rough in the eye is an adaptation to make the chicken survive in the environment. So, by the time I did this very work, it was a beautiful sight to behold. And people, a pair of them then, in 2007, was about 25,000. 25,000 naira was a big money. Not now, which is equivalent to maybe 120,000 now. When we did that very work with the chicken, I was empowered, I was emboldened rather, to get into goat production. The goats we have in the region, I discovered that there's no place you can go and say, this is a commercial goat farm. From Imo State to Ebonyi. And I asked myself, what's the problem? And I discovered that the common sense of an average farmer is that when you go out there in the north and buy, large animals, as females, you bring them there, use our wild goat, the West African dwarf goat, and cross them. And that was what they were doing. And of course, what will come out? There is what we call genotype-environment interaction. Because these females are not adapted to the environment, whatever they produce will be like them. And so with time, there will be diarrhea, there will be pests and diseases, and they will all wipe out. So the investment fails. I had to design an experiment with my team. And we're going to look into this problem. We did a main crossing, which is the normal thing our people have been doing, and then a reciprocal of using only a single buck to cross maybe 30, 40, 50 goats of our own West African dwarf goat. And we discovered that that is where the answer is, the mating pattern that yields very stable results. The animal, the hybrid may not be as big as the Resokoto, but it will give you an average animal that is well adapted. The adaptability genes in the mother is transmitted to the offspring. And so both mother and offspring survives. And with that, we were able to go two-way hybrid. Then we had to move into a third way of bringing the long-legged Sahelian and Sudanese goat and cross. Then we still got similar results because we have now known the right technique of mating. Presently today, I've gotten more grants to develop the goats. We have now acquired the South African, world-class South African Boer goats. They are there in the university research farm. And their offsprings are sight to behold. And people are coming to pick up our technology. And that's the joy. So, and of course myself, my mindset is to solve the problem I had noticed over time. So in the next 2-3 years, you will discover that big farms will be springing up because of the technological innovation we are putting in place. Emboldened again by the success of the goat project, I now felt, I looked around my colleagues, nobody is talking about cattle. From the professor to the graduate assistant. I called my team again. We have to do something about this. Of course, the concept is mine. I called them. We now laid hand on our indigenous muturu. You know the muturu you see in the Ebonyi State and in Soka and then part of Ungwa. They are very small, almost a little bigger than goats. Then the Ndama, which is a Gambian type of breed. Also, Gambia is in the coastal region of Africa. So trypanosomiasis is common. For these animals who have survived those environments, we now know that they are. Of course, there are documented evidence that they are trypanotolerant. We cross them, Muturu and Ndama. Now, these other ones that are big, the Gudali and the White Fulani, that are the savanna animals, and we do not survive here. We did also cross them. Now, 2 times 2, we were able to now bring the 4 animals into a package, which we call a composite. And today, in the farm, you will discover that you have a massive animal that is carrying the Muturu black patch, then the Ndama brown patch, then the White Fulani white patch underline, and then the hornlessness of the Gudali. A beautiful sight is giving us, the adaptability we need and the meat that's in place. And this has really led us now into doing fantastic work of consulting to our people within the Southeast. We have such farms as C7 in Isialangwa. That's a very big farm. It's a big beef breeding farm in Isialangwa. Now, we have also another one at Ohanku. These are products of the research. Now, a new one is out from here again through somebody who was interested, who saw what we were doing at Ndio Kereke and Abam in Ben, the local government. Another judge from Mbise is also interested, and he has just come to acquire Muturu and the Ndama. You see, so the story here is this. Because I had a mindset that the problem I've seen on ground will not persist. Today, we are experiencing creation of new genotypes. God created, and any man that is working with God must also be in that habit of creating. In fact, my inaugural lecture, I've already written it. I said, the animal breeder, a collaborator, a co-laborer with God in creating genotypes for productivity and sustainability. And so, every one of us seated here should be able to think about the community. True wealth is thinking about your people and how to solve problems you meet on ground. Another beautiful thing and a takeaway, I think you should learn to leverage on the strength of others. I discovered that there are more in everyone seated here. For me, as a team leader, I will always sit down and then have inspiration. Well, I'm a pastor, and so God talking to me is not out of place. So I get ideas. But I discover that sitting down to write long things, essays like that, is not, I don't have flair for it. So I formed an editorial team. And my editorial team, you cannot believe that within 1 year, we produced 20 papers, which I needed for assessment for professorship. And I added, they wanted 4 papers from me, but I came with 20. And the reason for that is Igwebuike. That is for a researcher. And now, today, what has not been, has become. We have farms that were put in place. We have animals. And of course, with all these things, money is following it. The third fund has continued to fund our projects. We have gotten first funding, second funding, and today we have a massive cattle house with animals, being bred in that very place. All because we believe that we have a problem and we want to solve it and we want our people to benefit. Let us think community. Embrace the Igwebuike philosophy for collective prosperity and our people's common good. Of course, it blesses those who will want to dwell in truth and unity among themselves. According to Psalm 133, verse 1, it says, how good and how beautiful it is for brethren to do what? To dwell together in unity. Thank you for listening.